Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. And before we get started with this video, we just want to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed to our channel. We passed 2,000 subscribers, so we really appreciate it. Thank you. And you're the reason why we keep making videos. I mean, now that we have an audience, we feel more motivated to keep making videos. So thank you. In this video, we want to talk to you guys about commonly asked questions from you guys. So let's get right to it.
So one of the common questions we get is, why did we choose the Promaster over like the Transit or the Sprinter van?
Yeah, and that's a good question. Obviously, the Transit, Sprinter are other options that a lot of van dwellers use, and we went with this with the Promaster because unlike the Sprinter, it's not diesel based, and we wanted something gas so that we didn't have to worry about finding fuel on the road. And also, since we have our bed lift system, it needed to be something more boxed shape, and the Promaster is the most box shaped out there. It's not completely boxed, but it's better than the Sprinter or Transit. And originally we thought we were going to sleep this way, which that's another thing about the Promaster. It allows us to have enough room to sleep that way if we didn't have the bed lift system, because that cuts away from the width.
Right. And another reason we like the Promaster is because it's front wheel drive, and a lot of other vans are rear wheel drive.
Right. So by having such a long van, we wanted to be able to maneuver around, make turns a lot smoother than other ones would. So we definitely wanted that feature. And so far that we've been on the road for a few months now, we definitely are grateful that we went with that decision, because it's helped us out a lot, like finding parking and getting around the city especially.
Yeah. And we went with a Promaster 3500 specifically because it was only one that is extended, right? So we got the 159-inch wheelbase extended. And so we're around 20 and a half feet, maybe close to 21 feet long, but we still fit in a parking spot. And we've never really had like much trouble finding parking. I mean, obviously, like sometimes parallel parking is a little bit tricky, but John's a beast. He can handle it.
You learn quick. Also, the 3500 allows you to have more weight than the other models. And like as you said, that's the only model that you get the extended version. So that pretty much sums up that question.
Yeah. So another commonly asked question is, how is the performance of the Promaster so far been for us? And so we bought our Promaster in 2017, November 2017, and it was a new Promaster, and we went with a new one because we wanted to have something that we knew was going to be reliable and last us a long time. We didn't want to have to worry about things breaking down or whatever if we bought a used one. So obviously that was more expensive, but we felt like it was an investment that was worth it to us.
Yeah, and especially since we're putting a lot of money into our build, and we wanted something that was going to last for a really long time and, like you said, be reliable. So now that we've had it and living on it full time for 3 months now, we want to show you guys what we think of it. So for the most part, we like it. It's been really good for us, but the only complaints that we would have is maybe it doesn't have as much power going up hills, and also the shifting. It doesn't shift gears as fast as we'd like it to. So it's not a safety concern for us. We obviously know if there's a hill coming up to gain momentum and gain speed, and once we do, it pretty much functions how it should be.
Right. And we were told that this was because it's a European car, and that's just how they do the system. And I think we just weren't used to that, so it's just taking some time to get used to driving it. And other than that, like, I mean, it still goes really fast on the freeway. Like everything else, we haven't had any mechanical issues. Like everything else has been holding up good. So
right. And also, a lot of you guys wanted to know what the miles per gallon we get, and obviously it varies with terrain, but we tend to notice that on average it's around 13 to 15 miles per gallon if we're on a flat road and not a lot of hills or inclines.
Yeah.
So some of you guys asked, why not buy an already built RV? I mean, this was an expensive build, and we could have saved a lot of time. But I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is the layout. Obviously, we can't go somewhere and have this unique setup with a dual bed system and our electrical system. And if we did, they would definitely charge us a good premium. So we didn't do that. We didn't do that because of the layout, and also we wanted to make sure that the build was going to be quality. For example, the foundation, the framing around all that, it was going to be with good materials, and we know that companies tend to try to maximize profits, so sometimes they would cheap out in building materials to make a little bit more in overall profit. So we just didn't want to take that risk.
So we also, had looked into having a company, do the build for us, give them the layout that we wanted and everything that we were looking for in our van. And they quoted us, like $150,000 at least, and that wasn't even including the cost of the van. So we just felt like that was like a ridiculous price, and it would be a lot cheaper if we did it ourselves. But with our jobs and stuff, we didn't necessarily have the time to do everything ourselves, and so we did choose to hire some people to help us. Like, we hired a professional electrician. We used his family friend who is a
carpenter.
Mm-hmm. So it still ended up being cheaper, and then we felt like it was a good quality build.
Yeah. So that kind of leads us to our next question: how long did it take? And as Rachel mentioned, we did hire a family friend to do a lot of the build. So finding someone to do that part and also finding someone to do the electrical part took a long time. So there were months at a time where the van was just sitting there. So we've had it took a whole year for the whole process, but we estimate that actually people working on it and stuff getting done, it was more like 6 months.
Right. And there was a lot of like challenges and setbacks in our build. Like, the electrical system was complicated because no one had like done it before in this kind of van, and just finding someone to do that was really challenging. And so that took a long time. And then finding someone to help us out with the build, we had one person helping us out in the beginning, and then they weren't able to help us anymore because of their other commitments. And then
even the family friend that helped us at the end, he also has his own business
and his family
right. So there were a lot of setbacks there, but we would estimate it would take around 6 months for the start to finish of actually working on the van.
Right. So we've also gotten a lot of questions about our layout and kind of why we chose things to be the way that they are. And basically the main things that we were looking for were functionality and comfort when we were coming up with our van design. And Jon definitely spent a lot of time, looking at different van layouts that were already out there. And we, sketched it out multiple different ways until we finally decided on the best one for our needs.
Yeah. So some of you guys noticed that during the aisle, it could be a bit cramped. And for us, we weren't going to risk not having other appliances just because the aisle was going to be a little bit more narrow. And since we spent 90% of the time back here in our two couches, we feel like it's pretty open with all these windows around us. So that's why we chose that. Also, so just the nature of being in a van, we knew that it was going to be in tight spaces. So we were comfortable with having the aisle just be a little bit more cramped, because if we really wanted to be out in the open, we can go outside and, you can be out in the open.
Right. Yeah, having the comforts for us was more of a priority. Like, our shower and bathroom was more of a priority than like whether we can walk all the way through the van or whether it feels open enough. But to us, it does feel open enough. We have our, windows back here all the way around in the couches. And when we hang out back here, it feels totally open.
Yeah.
even though we can't actually stand up with the top bed, we feel like it doesn't even matter to us. Like, it feels really open back here. So
Yeah. And then some of you guys have mentioned, why not put our composting toilet inside a shower and free up that space for another closet? And there's a few different reasons, but as you know, we have a composting toilet which needs to be vented outwards, and so we have a hole down on the floor so that it can vent outwards. And we could do that. I guess we could have done that in our shower, but it would have been a lot more complicated to be able to have that vented. And also, after we take a shower, we didn't want to risk having humidity issues with our composting toilet, because the composting toilet sucks up air around it to keep it dry, to keep the waste dry, so it composts faster. So if we put it back after we take a shower, we might risk bringing humidity into the mix, and that wouldn't help our composting toilet.
Yeah. And we felt like that was just an easier solution, was to have the toilet separate from the shower. And we just also like that idea better. Like, I just didn't really like the idea of like having our toilet while we're taking a shower. Even if you're going to take it out when you're taking a shower, just putting it back in is just kind of weird. And then, like, unless you literally dry off every single surface, like, you're going to get wet when you're trying to use the toilet. So
and you use the toilet a lot more than the shower, so you want to have access to that a lot more. So it just made a lot more sense for us to do it separate.
Right. And a lot of people, have said, we have way too much stuff stored in our shower. And if you think of it as like, we basically converted our closet into a shower. Like, we're using that space for multiple purposes. And we think that was like the best solution. It only takes us a minute to take the stuff in and out.
Every other day.
Right. We don't feel like it's a big deal at all. But obviously for someone else that like maybe doesn't want to have to do that every day, you can just maybe figure out how you can have less stuff in your van, or maybe you can store it somewhere else. But we feel like we are very limited in the amount of stuff that we do have. And so we do need to use that space as storage.
Yeah. And also, off of that point, it does look like we have a lot of stuff in our shower, but that's pretty much what people would have underneath their couches or overhead storage, which we have a bed up here, so we don't have overhead storage. So we don't have more than most van lifers. If anything, we have less.
Right. We're pretty minimal, and we really have limited storage in our benches as well, because we have our 40-gallon water tank. We have our whole electrical system down here as well. So we can only fit like a couple things down under our benches. And so we just are pretty limited in our storage in general.
Yeah. That brings up to another question of how we balance the weight in the van. And as she mentioned, on one side of the bench, we have all our water system. We have our 40 fresh water tank, water filter, water pump. And then on the other bench, we have our electrical system, our 2 batteries, BMS controller, and pretty much everything, all our electrical components, plus the closet. And throughout the van, we counterbalance everything out. So that's how we did that.
Right. So another part of our layout that we really wanted to incorporate was having the lounge area, so the couches and the table. Because we really liked the idea of having that to hang out and eat and things like that. But we didn't want to have to convert that into a bed every single night. So that's why we went with the bed lift system as well.
So a lot of you guys were curious of how our bed lift system works. And we did make a video about how to have 2 beds in a camper van. So definitely check that out. And pretty much what we did is we modified an existing bed frame, because the Happy Jack didn't come with the bed frame. So what the Happy Jack really does is it comes with 4 different legs and 2 on each side, and it has 4 different points that you attach the bed to, which are like L brackets. So you have to stick a pin through the bracket and the bed frame for it to attach. So a challenge that comes with that as well is that since none of these vans, the Sprinter, Promaster, or Transit, are really box shape. I mean, the Promaster is more of a box shape than those other ones, but we still had to push it out from our wall a little bit so that it could be perpendicular and work properly. So we did lose a little bit of space there, which we would have lost a lot more in any of the other vans. So.
Right. Yeah. So our bed is a little bit smaller, or like unusual size compared to some people's, but it still works for us. And Jon just has to sleep like kind of diagonal, and then I still sleep on the side next to him. And it works for us, and we feel like even though it was really challenging, it was definitely worth putting it in the van.
Yeah, I mean the ability to just be like, okay, we're tired, and bring down the bed and go to bed, it's just worth any of the making the bed and all of that challenge.
Yeah, and the Happy Jack is nice because you just adjust the one middle bar, and it can be adjusted for any size structure that you have.
Yeah.
And we can actually sleep up to 4 people if we would like to. We can just lower the upper bed about halfway down, and then still have the bottom bed converted and sleep 4 people that way. And then we can also run our AC that way as well, because our AC is above our top bed. And some people were wondering, well, how can you run that if your bed's all the way up? Well, we can always just move it a little bit down. But even if it is all the way up, I feel like the air can still flow through pretty good.
It still would. And some of you guys have asked if we are planning to release our layout, like in blueprints or in different specs. And we're working on that. But we also want your guys' feedback. What would you like to see our van layout in? Do you guys want to see it in a 3D model, blueprints, or a combination of both? So let us know, and we'll definitely try to tailor to that.
Yeah, and we really want to, help out the community and, make our layout accessible to everyone. But obviously that is going to take a lot of time and effort on our part. So it would, have to cost something, but we're not going to try to overcharge people just to have access to it.
Right. So we've also had a few questions about our electrical system. Since I mentioned that we chose a 24-volt system because we wanted as much power in the smallest space available. And a lot of you guys were asking, well, how is that the case? And we've made a video about our electrical system and how you can size your battery banks to see how long you can run different appliances and for how long. And pretty much what it all comes down to, though, is amp hours times voltage equals the total amount of watts in your system. So if you have a 12-volt system, you multiply your amp hours times 12, and if you had a 24-volt system, you would multiply your amp hours times 24, and as you can see, that would give you double the amount of wattages. They are a little bit bigger than the 24-volt batteries are a little bit bigger than one 12-volt battery, but not by much. You would need to have 4 12-volt batteries for our 2 24-volt batteries. So we just wanted to clear that up. There is downsides to it, though. They're obviously more expensive to do the 24-volt system, just because the batteries and all the components cost a little bit more. But it's definitely gone down in price since we've bought it. So we've provided links down below to the with the people that we've worked with in the past, and they're super helpful. If you have questions about what components to get or what configuration you want, you can reach out to them and they'll help you out, which is a lot better than going off of like Amazon and just buying it off of there.
Yeah, so we recommend reaching out to them and buying through those links below, and you will be supporting us by doing so because we are affiliates with them.
Yes.
And we just wanted to say that we feel like our electrical system was definitely worth the big price tag.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to run our microwave for a really long time, and then it only takes maybe 15% of our battery. We can run our AC, we can be running multiple things at the same time, and not really have to worry about our battery too much.
Right. And also the lifetime of the batteries make it worth the expense, because they're like 2,000 cycles, and if you use them, that's like if you're charging them up 100% and then draining them 100% every day. I mean, you do the math, 365 days a year. You can go up to like 6 years with doing that, but we charge up maybe like 50 or use 50% of power maximum each day. So you can even double that amount in 12 years. So
right, and it depends for us too, because like with our dual alternator, we obviously are able to charge when we're driving and things like that. And that will charge our battery up pretty quick versus like if we're just trying to rely on solar. And I think that's one tricky thing is figuring out how you're going to power the system and how you're going to keep it recharged. Because if we didn't have the dual alternator, I don't know how we would.
It would take a lot longer for us to even charge up to
right.
50%.
Because even though we have like 560
watts of
solar, it never like charges it like that significantly. So maybe we'll figure out a way to add more solar at some point. But.
Yeah. Okay, so now the burning question on everyone's mind: how did we, to a young couple, afford the system? Do we have rich parents? Did we win the lottery? So a lot of you guys have insinuated or suggested everything under the sun, but besides the main thing, which we had good jobs before this. Well, at least I was a software developer, so we were able to pay majority of the build through that. But so I was doing that for 2 years, and then by the end of the second year, the job that I was working on finished. So then we were in a little bit of a pickle to finish the van build. So we did everything like garage sales, side jobs, and then we had to take a loan, which thankfully our family stepped up and helped us through that. And how we see this investment and this build is this is our home, and when people buy a home, they take out a loan from the bank. So that's how we saw it. We wanted something that we could be comfortable in. It could have all the appliances and things so that we can last for a long time in this type of lifestyle, since that was the plan from the beginning.
Luckily, our families were, super supportive and generous to help us out, so we don't have to like pay interest when we're paying them back for that money. And we're, extremely grateful for their support. And they were with us at the beginning of this journey, and they, have seen how long it's taken for us to get through this build and how excited we were to like get on the road. And so they didn't want like that dream to be, postponed a lot longer just because John lost his job and we were, needed a little bit more money to see it through.
Yeah, and we obviously plan to pay them back, so that's how we see that.
Yeah, we are going to release another video with like a breakdown of the cost of our van, because that was another really like commonly asked question. Obviously, our van did cost a lot. We just need to get all the receipts together because I left them back home at my parents' house. I didn't feel like we needed them with us in the van. It was like a giant book of receipts. So once I get all that put together, we will be releasing that video to give you that information.
Yeah, just to give you guys a heads up, the title is probably going to be the most expensive van on YouTube, but we'll also be sharing how you could reduce the price of it. For example, our electrical system was probably half the amount of our build, so we'll share with you guys. You can do this with a 12-volt system. You just need a little bit more space, and you run some other appliances through gas or propane.
Yeah. So another commonly asked question we get is, how do we make money on the road? And we do that through various jobs. Right now, I am working online as an English teacher. So I teach classes online to adults all over the world. It's a nice company. It's flexible schedule, so I can put in the hours that I want to work throughout the day. I normally put in, evening hours, so that way we can do stuff during the day and then can come back to the van when we would normally be hanging out in the van anyways, and then get my work done. And I'll teach, anywhere between 1 and 5 or more classes, in a day, which is normally an hour each class. And I've liked it so far. I mean, there are challenges with starting a new job. It's something I'd never done before, but I did receive a lot of training, and it's getting a lot easier. And I do like the fact that I get to, meet people from all over the world.
So I do various contractor jobs, for example, dog walking or food delivery, but mainly dog walking. And that's kind of why we're back in San Diego now, because where we were at, it was in Tucson. We were at courtside by the end, and it just didn't. There weren't a lot of opportunities there to dog walk, so we came back here to a bigger city, and it's worked out well for us. I've had a lot of opportunities to dog walk. So we'll also release another video of how you can find jobs online, because I know we've got comments from people that they want to do this lifestyle, but the only thing that's stopping them is being able to sustain themselves. And we feel like we've gone through that, finding jobs that we can do remotely. So we'll share with you guys some tip and tricks too for that.
Yeah, and obviously we don't make as much money as we used to, and it definitely wouldn't be enough money for us to live back in Seattle and pay rent. But for our lifestyle now, it's working.
Yeah, and the main thing about our jobs too is being able to have something that's flexible, so that we can take advantage throughout the day. Because I mean, the whole purpose of us living in a van is to go around, travel, and see different places and experience new things. So we definitely want to have that aspect still in part of our daily lives.
Yeah. So another commonly asked question is, how do we get Wi-Fi on the road? And this was really important for us because for my online job, we needed really good internet connection, because I have to be, streaming video and audio when I'm doing my classes. And so we got a Mophie Wi-Fi router. And basically how it works is you have a SIM card. So we have an AT&T SIM card, and we pay every month for that. And we can basically get internet anywhere that we have AT&T cell reception. And it's been pretty reliable. I also connect to my computer through an Ethernet cable, which can help boost the connection for my work.
Yeah, and we also have a Wii Boost on top of a roof, and what that does is amplifies the cellular signal and brings it inside our van. And also I have Verizon, which if we don't have AT&T service, I could always use a hotspot and have internet off that.
Right. And that's happened a couple of times where for some reason we were in an AT&T dead zone, and I was about to teach a class, and we were able to use his Verizon hotspot. So it's good to have, the two options.
Yeah.
And overall, we've really liked the Mophie. We felt like it works really good. Jon will play his Xbox games, and we can stream Netflix and stuff, and it seems to be pretty fast most of the time. So
really impressed by it.
We're happy with it. And that is another challenge too for us, is we have to make sure that we are camping in places that we know have cell reception, because I do work pretty much every day, so we have to kind of plan that out ahead of time. And sometimes we have gone to places that didn't have connection, and we had to move on.
Right, and that's usually more of a challenge when we're out boondocking, not in the city. But we also check out our boondocking versus the city video, and we explain more of what to look for to make sure that you have reception and when you're in BLM land. Okay, so we'll be listing all the products below, but I did want to mention our water filter, because it's a little bit different than that you most commonly will see. And our water filter, what makes it different is that it has a UV filter as well, and we wanted to do that so that we can get water from anywhere, even a river. And what the UV filter does, it pretty much kills bacteria, which can't be filtered out through normal sediment filters. So that's something to definitely think about with your own filter, getting a UV filter.
Yeah, it's definitely been worth it for us. I mean, it is a little bit more of an expensive filter, but it's a good peace of mind for us, and we've been able to fill up water from some pretty sketchy places, and we haven't gotten sick. So
Yeah.
So we've also been asked what would we change about our van. And honestly, as of right now, there isn't a whole lot that we would change. I mean, we've only been in here for a few months now, but we're pretty happy with how everything turned out. The few kind of minor things. So for our insulation, we used the spray foam insulation, and Jon went a little bit overboard with like filling in all the cracks and everything.
Yeah, don't get that stuff on anything else because it's super hard to get off.
Yeah, it doesn't come off. But we feel like it's pretty well insulated because of that. The only place that it's not very well insulated is our 2 back doors. And when we've been camping like in Arizona and it gets down, in the desert, it gets down to like 30 degrees at night. It's been a little bit cold. So we kind of wish that we had like built out the entire door.
Yeah, the reason why we didn't insulate, well, we insulated where we could, where there were holes and gaps, but we would pretty much have to frame out those 2 doors to be able to add extra layer of insulation, which a lot of people do, but we didn't see the need for it at the time. But
right, and it takes a lot of time, and it's hard with the shape and everything.
Yeah, following all the angles there.
But I think that's something that we may end up doing eventually, just because even though we don't like to be in cold places, but just in case we ever are, it would be nice to not have to worry about that.
Yeah, and also another thing that I wish we would have had or done is had 2 storage boxes in the back so that we can store extra water. Since we have a shower, we go through water pretty quick, even with the 40-gallon water tank. So Luminous, if you're listening, shout out.
Yeah, those boxes would be really useful too. Like we could store extra gas for emergencies, or just putting tools and things back there, so we have a little bit more space inside the van to reorganize our stuff a little bit, which would be nice. Yeah, we'll probably end up getting those eventually.
Yeah. So some of you guys asked why we chose our name and insinuated that we're pretty much copying or taking 2 different names and combining them together, like the Nomadic movement and the Minimal Millennials, which have changed the name to the Matinees now. But when we chose our name, we weren't thinking about that at all. When we chose our name, we were thinking about there's a lot of the older generation living in an RV or living in a van. So we wanted to encourage our generation to do the same. You don't have to be 50-year-old plus or retired to do this lifestyle. If anything, we've heard from those people that they wish they would have done it sooner. So that's where our name came from, and we're nomadic. So by nature, that made sense to us.
Yeah, and I feel like just because there's a lot of people out there that have the word nomad or nomadic somewhere in their name, so I don't feel like that means that we're like stealing part of their name just because we took 2 common kind of words and put them together for what made sense for us. I feel like the name's fitting for us. So another question that we have gotten is, where are we planning to travel to? And it's pretty much wherever that we can go. Right now we're traveling around the U.S., hopefully going, everywhere that we can, and then eventually would like to go up to Canada and Alaska, maybe down to Mexico and beyond. Really, we are just, taking the opportunity to take each day as it comes, and we, definitely want to see as much of the world as we can. So
yeah, definitely take it in one step at a time, and we'll take you guys along with us. So if you're new to our channel, we make videos about tips and tricks of living in a van and our travels. So if you haven't subscribed and you want to follow us on our journey, please do that, and also hit that notification button so that you see all our videos when they come out. And if you have subscribed, thank you, and you're the reason why we're making this video and future videos.
Yeah, we hope you found this Q&A helpful, but if you still have any other questions left, be sure to comment them below and we'll try to address them in a future video. Thank you so much for watching today, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.